Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video on Toyota. They are considered to be one of the leaders in supply chain management, so that's a very effective video to watch to understand the role supply chain plays in the manufacturing process today. Now we want to turn our attention to marketing channels. Marketing channels go from the producer to the consumer, okay? And it's to get it from the producer to the consumer, we can either go directly, that's a direct sales channel, or we can go through one or more intermediaries. Most of us are used to the system that goes through one intermediary, and that intermediary is called a retailer. But there may be behind the retailer other intermediaries, generally referred to as wholesalers, that we have to account for as well. There's also groups called agents and brokers, and we'll talk a bit about those as we go through this session as well. What you have to remember is we need channel members. Let's use our toothpaste example from before. Let's say Procter & Gamble decided that they were going to try and direct market toothpaste to everybody in the world. That system would quickly fall apart. They would have such a huge warehouse full of toothpaste and have to hire thousands of additional employees to go and find, when I order a box of toothpaste or you order one, go and find it, pick it, pack it, and send it. Horribly inefficient system. So instead, what we do is we find intermediaries. And intermediaries provide 4 key functions that a manufacturer doesn't want to provide. The first one is form utility. Form utility says that the intermediary provides the product in a form consumers want. Well, the form you and I want as consumers when it comes to toothpaste is a single tube. Now, the grocery store we buy it from might want a case. And the intermediary that they're buying from might want a pallet. And that intermediary who might want a truckload. So you see it's different forms depending upon the intermediary. But in our case, form utility. It comes in the form we want. We also want it in time utility. We want to be able to go and get it when we want it. The problem with ordering the toothpaste from Procter & Gamble is we'd have to, even if we did it online, we'd fill out the order, we'd place the order, and then we'd be waiting a day, at least, for it to arrive. That's a problem because let's say you've just discovered you've run out of toothpaste. Do you want to go an entire day without toothpaste? Probably not. I'm sure your coworkers and friends would agree with that. So you need the time utility. So not only do they provide the size you want, they provide it at the time you want. And they provide it in a convenient location. Okay? Having your toothpaste sold to you from Cincinnati, not very convenient because you've got to go online and order it. You'd much prefer to go to the local Target and buy it, the local CVS and buy it. Well, that's place utility. So what they allow you to do is go to a place where you expect to find that product, where you want to buy that product. Okay? So now I've got form utility, the size, time, when you're ready to buy, place, a place that's convenient to you and where you expect to find the product. And last but not least, exchange utility. You buy your toothpaste, they accept cash, credit, gift cards, whatever. If it's Procter & Gamble, they probably only want your credit card. Won't take your debit card, don't want cash. They only take one way. Well, that cuts out a lot of consumers. So you're not providing a strong exchange utility in that case. So it's exchange utility. You get your toothpaste, you give them something in compensation for it, either plastic or paper. Okay, so form, time, place, and exchange are all issues you have to look at. What do intermediaries do? Okay, well, merchant wholesalers are companies that take possession of the product. Okay, a merchant wholesaler will go to Procter & Gamble and buy a truckload of toothpaste. They will then store it, and they will then turn around and sell it to retailers. And that while they're storing it, they'll break it down into smaller packaging so it fits what the retailer's looking for. That's what a merchant wholesaler does. You might have an agent or a broker. Agents and brokers are commonly found, especially in the food industry, okay, because they know who the customers are. Usually retailers, other, it could be restaurant supplies, somebody like that. They have the connection to the customer, and you go through them, and they get a percentage of the deal, they get a percentage of the contract, but they never take possession of the merchandise. So they never physically hold on to it, unlike the merchant wholesalers earlier. And then last but not least, you've got retailers. Well, we're familiar with retailers. Retailers take possession for the most part. Some, it's on consignment, which means they don't pay for it until it's sold, okay? But usually they take possession of it. They then break it down out of that case into the individual boxes, put it on the shelf so people can find it, okay? And then they take cash, credit, whatever. So they provide that exchange utility. What all of these groups do is they provide a series of functions. They provide transactional functions. Brokers, for example, are big in the transactional side because they contact and communicate with potential buyers. They provide logistical functions. Merchant wholesalers will have a fleet of trucks that get the product from their distribution center to the individual stores. Okay, that's a logistical function. They'll also break it down into the appropriate number of tubes for a given store, another logistical. And they provide some sort of facilitation. They might do research to find out where the next product is, but probably the big one they do is they provide financing. So that when the retailer gets the product, they don't have to write a check right away. They're getting 30-day terms from the wholesaler. That typically allows the retailer to sell the product before they actually have to pay for it if they've got a strong inventory turnover. Okay? So channel members tend to perform transactional functions, working with the customers, okay, identifying them, contacting them. They provide logistical functions, getting the product from A to B, and they facilitate through things like financing so that the product can be sold. Well, what kind of channel structures do we have? Well, there are basically four. The one that you see infrequently in the consumer market is the direct channel. The direct channel is where the manufacturer sells directly to you. Now, it's not unheard of, okay, but it's rare. And the reason it's rare is because of all those problems I mentioned earlier with trying to sell you toothpaste. Manufacturers are used to producing big amounts of product and shipping large amounts of product. They are not used to shipping one-off units. Now, as I said, there were exceptions. Dell Computer was one of the exceptions. They changed the computer industry with a direct model. You contacted Dell, they made your computer, they sent it out, okay? So it's not unheard of. What we're most likely to see as consumers is a retailer option. We go to a retailer and we buy a product. The retailer, if it's somebody like Walmart, has probably dealt directly with somebody like Procter & Gamble. But if it's a smaller retailer, they've probably gone through one or more intermediaries to get the product. But the retailer is the last stop in the chain before they sell to you. There are wholesalers or intermediaries. Wholesalers serve as conglomerators or aggregators of product, where if a small retailer tried to buy product from a manufacturer and they were only buying a small amount, they probably wouldn't get a sufficient enough discount to attract customers. The wholesaler, though, by bringing together 10 of those customers or 10 of those retailers, could drive the price down. And that allows the retailer to be price competitive for the consumer. Ace is a great example. Ace consolidates all those independent Ace stores, and they buy through their wholesaler. They buy the material from their different suppliers at a much lower rate than if the stores try to do it directly themselves. Okay, so that's another one. The last one you're likely to see, especially in the consumer market, is the agent broker model, where the agent or the broker works with a manufacturer, identifies a retailer, or identifies a wholesaler who then identifies the retailers to move a product. The one place you're likely to see that's the food industry, because historically you've gone through a broker to sell your food products. Now, that's generally true if you're a small player. If you're a larger player like Wonder Bread or like Kellogg's, you're not using a broker any longer. You're self brokering. You have enough power to do that. But you still see them in the supply chain, or not in the supply chain, in this case, in the marketing channel. Okay? On the industrial side, we also have channels. The one we see that's probably the biggest one is direct. Okay, when you get into industrial products, pretty much it's the company selling directly to the end user, especially if the end user is government. So Boeing does not go through a wholesaler to sell aircraft or rockets to the US government. They sell them directly to them. Okay, it just makes more sense. The price point, the few number of customers that are involved in it, direct sales make a lot of sense. If you're talking about a smaller, less expensive product, you probably do sell through an industrial distributor, which is an industrial wholesaler. So if you're selling tires, for example, tires might go through a wholesaler to get to a government representative or to the University of North Dakota who's buying tires for all the vehicles in the fleet here. So we do see that relationship as well. You do see in the industrial side more of the agent broker side. And you see it both directly from the manufacturer and then also from the distributor. So we do see agents, brokers. You'll hear about manufacturing reps. Manufacturing reps is a great way of saying they're brokering for a company. So they'll pick up a product, which means they have the rights to sell that product inside a certain territory. They then go out and when they're talking to the customers, because they have the connection with the customer, and they'll go, oh yeah, and I've got this new product from company XYZ, Canadian was showing again, XYZ, that I think you guys could use. And then we'll explain it. The broker gets paid a commission on the sale. Now, how big the commission is depends upon a variety of factors, but let's just talk about newness. If a product's really new and you need the broker to really sell the product to get it purchased, they're probably getting a big commission on it. If it's a rebuy, they're probably getting a smaller commission on it because they're not having to do as much work. So over time, you'll see that commission rate change as the sales become more stable. And also the price is probably dropping too. So that's another reason why you want to drop the commission. Why is the price dropping? Because people are getting used to the product. All right, last slide in this particular area. What are some alternative channel relationship or channel arrangements? Well, it's not unusual today for companies to have dual channels where they'll sell direct and then they sell through a regular channel. Where you see that a lot in the retail is if you see a factory outlet. Well, if that's owned directly by the factory, that's pretty much a direct distribution, but they're still also selling through other retailers, okay? We see non-traditional channels, like infomercials. So if you want to buy the Basomatic 5000, for example, from Basomatic Corp, well, they'll sell it using an infomercial, right? They find that's a very effective way to get the product out. We see strategic channel alliances where companies will work together on a channel to get something out. Usually we see that if there's a new product being paired up with an existing product and they're trying to get the sales up, okay? You'll read about gray marketing channels. Gray marketing channels are where you're getting a product in Grand Forks or San Diego or wherever you live that wasn't meant for your market. The best example I can give you for that is when laser printers first came out in the 1980s. They were in very short supply. The US, Hewlett Packard was shipping most of what they had to the US, and and not very many to Canada, even though Canadian companies really wanted them. The Canadian company answer was they were paying their suppliers in Canada to essentially drive down to the US, buy a laser printer, come back to Canada and resell it to them. That was gray marketing, okay? They were buying product that was never meant to be shipped to Canada and shipping it to Canada Now, the way Hewlett Packard got to put a stop to that is they said that if you show up with one of these gray marketed products, we won't do any warranty work on it. You'll have to pay for it. And that kind of quickly shut it down. Reverse channels, okay, that's how you get things back. That's a big problem, especially with online shopping. About 28% of all merchandise purchased online gets returned for one reason or another. You have to figure out a way to get it back. Well, that's where FedEx and UPS come in. And as we saw this Christmas season, FedEx wanted to find an even better way to get things back. So they teamed up with Kohl's. So if you ordered something on Amazon and you wanted it shipped by FedEx back to Amazon because you were returning it, you could drop it at Kohl's. It was a very effective system. By the way, FedEx had nothing to do with that. I don't know why I said that. It was Amazon and Kohl's did the arrangement. So if you had an Amazon product, you take it back to Kohl's and it would get shipped back to Amazon. Now, why would Kohl's do that? Brought people into the store, and once they're in the store, they might buy something from you. So it was hopefully a win-win. Drop and shop. Go to Best Buy, you can drop off your batteries and still shop. That's a great example of drop and shop because what we're trying to do, we're trying to be green. Remember, we saw that in the supply chain. And the biggest thing, and the thing that you guys are going to spend most of your time on as you go forward, digital channels, and especially mobile. Okay, today we don't talk as much about e-commerce as m-commerce because we know that people spend more and more of their time on their mobile device doing everything from looking up information to making a purchase. So now what we're trying to do is integrate that into our marketing channel. And that becomes a key way we reach consumers. Not just consumers, but also business to business users. All right, that finishes this portion. At this point, go have a look at that Amazon video. It's a really good look at how they do supply chain. And then when you come back, we'll talk about the last topic today, which is factors affecting the channel choice. Thanks again.